7,000 bucks, about 10 grand. We had 17 grand that went out, 70,400 bucks above budget. Wanted to start a YouTube channel for quite some time now, specifically talking about blue collar industries and blue collar work and how to prepare yourself to be a successful employee, employer, or a small business owner in a blue collar industry. I've worked in the blue collar field basically my entire life. I've worked for several other people, and in 2013 I started a pest control company where we take care of pests with airplanes and helicopters. And then because I grew up on a farm and with a farming background, that's something that I've always loved. I leased a bunch of farm ground in 2022 and started our farming company, and those are our two main things now. And we are currently starting a fire prevention, rehab / construction company, as well as a couple other things that I will share with you guys in a few short months. But I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel and kind of share about some of the things that have helped us, whether that's us as a company from a financial standpoint or just as like a personal growth standpoint. That's something that I've kind of wanted to share because I get quite a few questions about it. 2025 and 2026 have been pretty disastrous years in many aspects. But 3 years into our business, which was about 2016, we had 2 helicopter crashes in a 7-month time frame. And what I learned and what we as a group and as a team learned was actually what kind of helped propel us and help us be financially successful. And so my thought was, what better time to start a YouTube channel where I'm trying to help people? There's no better time than when things are going horribly wrong for us. So what I'm going to do is kind of share a lot of the things that have gone wrong and continue to go wrong, and how we've been able to not only go through these things but grow through them. You will see some things can go pretty wrong, and and so basically I just want to be transparent and show you guys how we thrive through these bad times, and hopefully you can take something that will help you, and if nothing else, hopefully you can find a little bit of entertainment. But basically in 2025 on the farm we had a 60% water delivery year, which basically means we can grow 60% of our crops. We then dried up some corn to grow some more pumpkins to help out one of the pumpkin farmers that was also short on water. This is corn that we turned the pivot off of in like early July, mid-July. There's like 25 acres that we didn't water because we were coming up short on water, and we wanted to make sure that we kept those pumpkins wet so they would grow good, so the pumpkin guy would have all his pumpkins. But as we just seen, we didn't even pick a single one. So hindsight, we should have never planted the pumpkins for him and just kept watering this field. But there's another reason why farming sucked in 2025. And then we weren't able to sell our pumpkins. It is the day before Halloween, and we are standing in an unpicked pumpkin patch, meaning unsold, meaning no money, meaning not a dime. In another field with millions of reasons why farming didn't go great this year, another field of unpicked pumpkins, which means no money. I forgot to mention part of this field's problem, along with the hundreds of thousands of unpicked pumpkins, is out here. If you look close, you can see all those corn stalks, which is not farmed this year because there are 3 of the pivot towers. So we had to make this field half as big as it was just so we had enough water to grow these pumpkins that then we did not sell. So no water on that half the field, unsold pumpkins on this half. So that was double bad. We also had grown some grain to take to a local feed yard, and then they decided after we'd already chopped it that they didn't want it, and then so I didn't have anywhere to sell it. Put up, standing in the middle of two more reasons why farming sucked in 2025. On this side, we had a grain crop that we were chopping, and then the dairy that we were selling it to called us and said, oh, actually we don't want it. So it had been cut, merged into big rows, so we couldn't sell it to anywhere but there. So we ended up just putting that in a silage pit down here, so it's just down there sitting unsold. This side, this field was actually our best producing field of 2024. Last year we got a great grain crop off it, followed by an amazing crop of pumpkins. This year, not a single drop of water went through these lines because we were at roughly 60% of our water for the year. So basically means 40% of our ground sat with no water for the whole entire year. So that sucks. So we had pumpkins we didn't sell, grain we didn't sell, and corn we had to burn up on top of a whole bunch of ground we just couldn't farm because we didn't have enough water. So we thought that was a bad year. Well, fast forward to 2026, some flippin' homo, likely with a crack addiction, decides to swipe one of my power cords for one of my irrigation systems. That was $7,000 right off the bat before we even get going. This year, we're estimated to have a 15% water delivery. Yes, I said 15%. So on our 1,200 acre farm, we are currently farming about 175 acres. So it's a disaster. We're not even going to make enough money to cover the leases and the payroll, let alone seed, feed, like seed, fertilizer, spray, maintenance, fuel, or turn a profit at all. So the farm is just a disaster this year. So we already know we're going to go backwards there. And like I said, I just leased this ground, so I don't even own it. So I'm literally just losing money at the farm in 2026. That's guaranteed. Then with the helicopter and the airplane business, we got turned into collections from the state of Utah on tax evasion for work that we did in the state of Idaho, because they've attached my mailing address to my house, to my taxes, which I've been battling with that. I've been cleared through most of that stuff, but just know that that crap's going to happen to you at some point. So that was like 70-some thousand that they're still trying to get me for, which they won't, because I know the tax laws, and I've sent them the tax laws, and we'll get through it. There was actually a Whistling Diesel episode where he had a Ferrari burned down in a cornfield. It kind of reminded me of that situation. But then we have 3 turbine helicopters. The engines have been out of all 3 of those in the last 6 weeks. One of them had a bearing go out where we had to bring it back, pull the engine completely out, then pull the engine completely apart to change like a $3,000 bearing, which ended up costing about 10 grand. We had to rebuild a helicopter because of time limits. However, it went way over budget because there was a lot of other parts that normally you wouldn't change, like an engine monitoring unit that was 17 grand that went out. And then we had a pilot over temp a helicopter, so we had to deal with that. Then we had a pilot hit a tree with the other helicopter that hadn't had any problems, and he ripped off the spray boom. Luckily, he's okay though, so that was great. And then my favorite one, we pulled the airplane outside, didn't tie it down, didn't set the park brake, and we let a big old wind gust come through and smash it into a bunch of the trucks. And it couldn't have been the older airplane, it had to be the brand spanking new one. So it ended up costing about 50 grand to fix the airplane. So that was just a bunch of dumb mistakes. Well, you'd think that would be it, but we was moving our fuel storage tanks, and then we bombed Iran. So jet fuel goes through the roof. Well, I have all my fuel tanks empty. So because of that, and I was slow buying fuel, I had to buy 32,000 gallons of jet fuel at $2.20 a gallon, more than I had budgeted for and more than I'd done my contracts for. So that was about $70,400 above budget. And there has to be a bunch more stuff. What else is there?
Or this airplane's blown up and you can't get it fixed and you're in all that money on it.
Another thing, we had a job last year that was $48,000 that we didn't get paid for. So we were just out that. And then behind me here, we got an airplane that was getting what's called a hot section done. I had budgeted $50,000 for the engine maintenance on this airplane. The guy that was doing the work thought it would be about 30-ish. Well, he gets into it. Turns out we got to replace what's called a vane ring, which was $32,000 just for the part. And then we ended up having to do some other stuff to it, and we're into it about $80,000 now. So I put like a $20,000 cushion on the budget, and now we're $30,000 over the cushion. And the kicker is, we was expecting to have the airplane back up by the end of April to do jobs. It is now the end of June, and the airplane is still sitting waiting for parts. So that is even worse than the cost of the parts themselves. So needless to say, it's been a really fun year. The other thing is, we've had a bunch of new guys, which great guys, just adjusting to the culture. And so we've had some strain people-wise because we've had a few people not show up to work, which is not common at all. And I promise you that will get better quickly because we have an amazing culture here. Anyways, all this stuff is going wrong, and I'm still pretty excited because every other time we've had things go wrong, I feel like we've just gotten a lot better from it. And so I think right now is a great time to be able to bring you guys along with us so you can kind of see some of the things that we do to be able to get through our problems, and hopefully it helps you. So to be honest, I'm pretty excited about the challenges coming up, and I'm very confident that we will be just fine. One, primarily because we have a great team. I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by some awesome people. So to be honest, I'm really not that concerned about it. So follow along and learn about some of the many things that we do and will do to overcome these challenges.